Maverick Physical Therapy, welcome back to a little episode 10 of the Thoracic Spine Matrix, in which we're going after type 2 in sync and out of sync using our closed kinetic chain-like principles. In episode 9, we went after type 1 in sync and out of sync. We had the head high to overhead high positioning of the upper extremity. We talked about balancing out in terms of positioning, how far is too far or how high is too high, and that we still need this mushing like effect, or this force coming back from the hand to help mobilize. If we get too high, we lose that, and therefore we lose essentially some of the purpose of what we're doing with this foot. In this episode, we're going to go after type 2. So type 2 in sync and out of sync. A couple ways that we can kind of go after this as well in terms of positioning. For the hand. So what we can do first, we'll go in this LXX stance, a sagittal plane like lunge. I'll typically go with the hand about waist high, and we can go waist high to kind of knee high, depending on the individual, obviously. So what we're doing right here, since I have my hand positioned waist high, I'm driving type 2 out of sync. Even though my pelvis is rotating left, it is rotated right. My right upper extremity driving left, so I have my out of sync type 2 right here of the thoracic spine. And as you can see, I go a little bit lower also. Just got to get a good solid anchor with that left arm. So with that position, and with that being type 2 out of sync, we could also therefore very well also take our right upper extremity, pre-position it beyond the midline, up maybe head or shoulder high. And so as I do that, I essentially kind of preset this trumpet-like effect, sagittal plane for extension right here. So when I was down here, I was getting more flexion. Depending on if the individual has any pathological related stuff going on with that, with the shoulders at all, and how high they can go, you want to get a little more extension. So you're just basically leaning into the wall. You can even go on a little angle so that they get a little bit more lean here. And I'll just use this oscillation, this shifting of the weight forward through the lower extremity. Right arm position up overhead, outside and beyond the midline. And I'll just go with this little row right here. Or I'll just open up the whole left arm and rotate it out. And that's a big stretch. Type 2 in sync with my left rotation right here. So I can again, with my right leg forward, left hand about waist high or knee high. Right arm can rotate and reach on down here. Or I can go hand on the wall initially. Just get a little motion going here. Rotate out with the left arm. Or again, I'll most typically choose kind of an angled position here. Left arm up. I'll rotate it out. And I'll row. To show you what that looks like from the other side, if I wanted to go a little type 2 out of sync right here, it's an RXX position, right hand maybe about waist high, left arm's going to rotate and reach over top. If I want to drop it down a little bit more and go after a little more flexion, I can. Boom and boom. Otherwise, I would position right arm or left arm up, right here, and I can, as I'm just sinking my way forward, my right arm is just pulling like a lawnmower or like a row, or I can do a transverse plane pendy swing. And what that would look like angled wise, RXX, leaning in on an angle, lawnmower, or transverse plane pendy swing and get my type 2 out of sync. If I want to go in sync with it, switch the position up. NSYNC, not my favorite boy band, but the osteopathic nomenclature again for the positioning. Thought you got me there. You thought you heard some NSYNC going in the background. You didn't. So I'll triple my flexion. I'll then, if I want to triple a little extension, hand on over. I'll add a little row right here. Add a little row. Or a little pendy swing here. Angled it up so that I can lean on in a little bit more and really take advantage of this top-down kind of drive room. I will do that. There's our type 2 in sync and out of sync closed kinetic chain-like principles to assess and treat the thoracic spine. The great thing with that, I'll use my FMR on that. After I watch them move, I'll compare them in that as to how they responded when they were using the bilateral upper extremity drivers. Okay, were they successful now? And what they weren't as successful with before, does that change anything? How does that look? And I guarantee you're going to see some pretty interesting things. The things that they were maybe greatly restricted at, they're going to become more successful with. The stuff that they're already successful with, I think you're going to find that it's going to further drive success. So it's up to us to be able to find out for you, as either a patient or you as a clinician, what we can do to help that individual. What can we do to drive further success? If they're limited to right rotation, whether it's type 2 or type 1, well, what do they look like in regards to kind of comparing the in sync and out of sync between each other? Let's go after, it goes a little bit against and is a little bit contrary to a conventional perspective in, hey, let's look at what someone's really poor at, let's tell them how crappy they are, and let's keep focusing on that when the body says, hey man, I can't move in that position, give me something else. So let's look at where they're moving well, and let's actually maybe kind of play around in there a little bit more before we go and head into those things that they're not maybe too good. And everybody loves to be encouraged a little bit. So what we're going to do right here, let's go. So we went after our type 2 out of sync here, and what I'm doing is just kind of add in a little row after I load into my type 2 out of sync to give me this type or this in sync kind of load right here, in which I actually get this this left rotation and this left side bend, but it depends on where my hand is. I'm actually getting a little type 1 in sync right here, and if I wanted to go the type 2 in sync route right here with the load, boom, boom, I can with my right arm help drive this left rotation with this catapulting and this mushing off of the wall. Thoracic spine matrix type 2 in sync and out of sync. Take those for a spin. You will not be disappointed. Great way to assess, great way to treat. Head back into your bilateral upper extremity drivers to test and retest. Have them perform their function, their skill, whether it's swinging a golf club, throwing a football, throwing a baseball, hitting a tennis ball, throughout your transformation zone, see how they feel. Get some good quantifiable data. Mixing and matching with those offers a lot more credibility, but easier connectability. Everybody loves to be able to see ways to get better, and yes, we have some episodes coming on up in terms of what I do then to actually go through and measure our type 1 and our type 2 in sync and out of sync. So I've got some fun little things coming on up that we'll be able to dig into for that. I don't take that out right off the bat, just because typically these are positions that people don't necessarily practice, even though they're required on a daily basis and function. But I like to go through and assess all these limitations and successes first, play around with things. I'll then head on in and go after measuring what I want to measure with just a cool, simple little PVC pipe contraction and some old just sewing tape measures and stuff like that that are really easily set up and very inexpensive, but gives us some good objective data to go by. So play around with those guys. I think you're gonna love.